What is going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back with another superstar from the sport of mixed martial arts. Today, we get to talk to Steve Mowry, heavyweight at Bellator. He's got a big fight coming up at Bellator 290. It takes place on February 4th on CBS. The headline bout that night is Ryan Bader versus Fedor Emelianenko and his opponent, Ali Isaev. What's going on, Steve? How are you?
How you guys doing? It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Steve, this is a big fight. I'm very well aware of both of you guys because we follow PFL back in the day, still do, and we followed your trajectory here. Please tell me, are you on that main card? I mean, I'm looking at topology and you guys are a little buried down on the prelims, but that's not always accurate. This is a fight, especially because the main event is in the heavyweight division, that I think should be a little bit higher up. What can you tell us? Give me some good news.
Yeah, I never really know about the bout order really until the day before the day of. I've had the order switch literally minutes before I was supposed to walk out. So it's like, I don't know. Whenever they call you, you got to be ready to go. So
selfishly, though, from your end, you want to be on the main card, I imagine, right? Or
yeah, for sure. I mean, I was on the main card a few years ago for a CBS show, and it was so cool to be, just part of a moment like that. I was really looking forward to running back a main card moment, but yeah, so I'm hoping, I'm staying optimistic that maybe they'll give us the bump up here in a week or so.
I mean, I see this fight as a pretty important fight, and it's very similar to an interview we just recently had about an hour ago, where I'm not sure if you follow MMA, complete, all the different promotions, but Aljamain Sterling is going to be defending his bantamweight belt on the same card as our guest, which was Adrian Yanez. And I thought it was a fair question. Like, you're going to weigh in at 135 because so much can happen in our sport from one day to the next. You might just be in a title fight before you expect it. Jamal Hill, he didn't think he was going to fight for a title, last Saturday, but everything kind of fell apart with the draw, at the end of last year. Next thing you know, he was in a title fight in Brazil. He had never left the country. Now he's the world champ. How about from your end? Do you feel like, hey, I'm training for Ali Isaev, but if anything's wrong at the top, put me in, coach?
No, I mean, preparation for me really just looks like being the best version of myself at all times. And I think the best version of myself wouldn't have any problem in any kind of fight, no matter how it presented itself. Be it a title fight or be it just – I mean, I think every fight's a big fight. I've never had a small fight. But, yeah.
Before she goes back on the boot.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm meeting my niece for the first time.
Oh, sorry, buddy. Beautiful. How beautiful little girl. What's up, princess?
Nice. You just met your niece for the first
time? That's my – yeah. I was the way I had this planned out in my head, it was going to be much cleaner, but didn't work out. Right. Sorry. I'm so sorry, guys.
At least you'll have it on video the first time you ever met her.
Yeah.
We're filming it for you.
Oh, you're good, man.
Well, congratulations.
I'm sorry for the way this all shook out, guys. I thought the way I had it planned out was going to be much cleaner. I really apologize.
No, you're good.
Do you need to be with your family?
No. It's like I said, I was just going to do it in my car, and I was going to turn all the lights on, but then the lights didn't work, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I was like, I'll come in. But my brother-in-law didn't know that I was in here, so I was like, hey, he knew I was in here, but he didn't know I was doing an interview. So it's sorry, guys. Do you want to go back to that question? You can edit it out or something.
Sure. No, I just wanted to know. Basically, are you ready to fight for a title if they were to ask you? Just because it just so happens you're on the same card as the champion who's defending.
Right. Yeah. If the opportunity were to present itself, I feel like I would do really well. But that said, I'm laser focused on Ali Isaev right now.
Mm-hmm. When you break down Ali Isaev, what jumps out at you the most?
He's obviously a very skilled wrestler, comes from a really high wrestling pedigree. Obviously, he's a gamer. He shows up. he's beaten a lot of guys that not only had the experience advantage on him, but also probably, I hate to say, but the skill advantage, like they're more well-rounded in their game, but he's a guy that shows up and he gets it done.
Mm-hmm. You've won your fights with strikes. You've won your fights with submissions. Well, which was the best Steve Mowry that you can point to out of all your fights where you would like to not only be as good as that one on that night, but obviously better because now you're more seasoned. There's more years of training.
So like February 4th, 2023, you were going to see the nastiest, meanest, most violent, most complete Steve Mowry that's ever been in a cage.
Love it.
I love that, man. That's what sells tickets right there. That's what gets people fired up.
Oh,
I want to talk about, so obviously unfortunate the last fight, but before that you had a nice little streak going, and like George said, lots of finishes. Do you feel like you could still kind of carry some of that momentum with you into this fight?
Well, I'll be honest with you, like momentum. I don't know. I don't know if momentum is perceived on the outside as the same way that it is, for me. It's not that not that having momentum isn't a good thing, but it just doesn't carry the same water for me. For me, it's just showing up, getting my gloves taped, and rocking and rolling on day of.
Does every fight for you feel different, or do they all kind of just, when you show up, are you kind of the same guy emotionally wise?
Yeah, they're all a lot of the same. A lot of the same emotions come to the dance, but they do present themselves differently from fight to fight. And I mean, normally you have some level of anxiety, some level of excitement, but I would say fight in and fight out, it's pretty consistent.
Probably at the weigh-ins or maybe a day before, you're going to see your opponent. And when you do, we've had fighters in the past say, I would look into my opponent's eyes and I knew right away where he was and I knew how this fight was going to go. What's that experience like for you when you come across your opponent? Do you like to stare into their souls, or how do you handle that?
I mean, I like to, for the cameras, I like to look into their eye, but I don't know. It's the fight business. It's not. It never really was about animosity. It never was about trying to dominate in a staring contest. It was always for me just about let's drum up the last little bit of showmanship that we can for this before we get after it tomorrow.
Are you still at Calif, which I guess it's changed names a few times, but
yeah, you'd be for maybe mistaking their name.
Okay, so you're there still?
Yes, sir.
How I know that gym has really grown, and there's a lot of success in that gym. Some world champions. I guess what I've never really asked is what is the light heavyweight, and maybe even more importantly, the heavyweights. How many of you are there? Who are some of your main training partners?
Yeah, I really feel like whenever I moved here in 2015, one of the things that drew me here was the deep well of good training partners, especially at the 205 and heavyweight, and I really feel like even for as good as it was back then, whenever we had Matt Mitrione, we had Stefan Struve, Tyrone Spong was still kicking it, we had Thiago Silva, several really good guys. I feel like the guys we have now are every bit as good, if not better. We have Linton Vassell, we have me, we have Chase Sherman, we have Victor Pesta, Emiliano Sordi, who's been a newer addition, but awesome guy to have around. And then of course we have several other guys that are still waiting to make their breakout onto the big stages and stuff. But we have a Daquan Buckley, we have Darian Abbey, Gokhan Saratam came and did part of his camp with us, which is always nice to have. And I mean, not to mention all the other guys that 185 and below who could still give the big guys a good push.
Yeah. And we got to give a shout out to the OGs, Rashad Evans and Anthony Johnson as well. With the late Anthony Johnson, may he rest in peace. Yeah, that was quite a list of names you went through. One that jumped out at me is Linton Vassell. You're both in the same promotion. He's obviously been on fire as well. What's the training like there? Is it pretty close? You guys brothers helping each other out, or do you have to hold back and maybe not be as close because obviously you're climbing up the ranks too?
Yeah, it's a mix of the two. Linton is one of my closest best friends. That I ever, not just in fighting, but in life. We've really been close over the years. But man, we leave with a little piece of each other every time we train together. And it doesn't come from a place of animosity. It's just that I can always trust Linton to give me a good push when I need one, and I'm sure he definitely trusts me to get the most out of himself whenever he needs it.
What other sports did you play? I got to ask someone that was 6'8". You had to have played some other sports. Were you a hoopster? Were you a left tackle? Were you a defensive end?
None of the above. I mean, I played baseball when I was like real young, but the same way that everybody plays baseball until they're 6 or 7 years old. No, I never really took the sports, and then I read about MMA in a magazine, and I was like, all right, let's do it.
What were the words that jumped out at you? What was it about MMA that you read where you're like, okay, yeah, that's me?
Yeah, I just reading about it and seeing that the guys who did the best were the ones who worked the hardest, the ones who kind of rounded out their game the most, the guys with the most attention to detail. Something about it for me just said, hey, that's something that not only is really cool, but I think I can be really good at.
Okay. Fabricio Verdun once told a story that he was with his gal at the beach, and some guy was trying to like hit on her, and he felt defenseless. He wasn't really a fighter back then, and he didn't like it, and that's kind of what changed him to like, hey, I got to stand up for myself. How about you? Were you a tough guy, always being kind of a big dude? Were you a tough guy when you were younger? You've always been able to protect yourself, or did you get picked on maybe?
No, I was a dork, man. I wouldn't say I wasn't like the constant target, but I was definitely more on the bullied side than the bully.
Wow.
And then, I mean, even now, I like I like most of the same stuff that I liked whenever I first got into the sport. It's just now I beat people up for money.
Yeah. Well, no one ain't messing with you now. I think people would rather jump into one of those rivers and deal with an alligator than 6'8" Steve Mowry.
Absolutely.
Undefeated Steve Mowry, who's facing Ali Isaev on Bellator, the 290 card that's coming up here on February 4th. Steve, we want to thank you for the time. Get back to your family, man. Congrats to your family for the newest addition, the niece that you were giving attention there to, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you for being so accommodating, and I can't wait to put on a show for you February 4th.